Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to Open Mic here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an honor and privilege to have you joining me here today. This is the daily show we do Monday through Friday. Just open topics. Whatever it is you guys want to talk about is what we're talking about. We're just a bunch of movie-loving friends hanging out together, talking about movies. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that happened today I'm sure that you guys are going to want to get to. So, yeah, without any further ado and without waiting around, let's just jump into it. And we're going to start things off with a couple of questions that came in earlier today on the John Campea show, but I didn't have time to get around to and actually finish. The first one comes to us from Jordan Bow, who writes, favorite Abbott and Costello movie. Favorite Abbott and Costello movie, there's a couple. Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein is classic. Rio Rita is great. Abbott and Costello Meet Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. That's another good one. The funny thing is, a lot of people today just think of Abbott and Costello in terms of their sketches, like Who's on First? One of the greatest comedy sketches of all time, right? But yeah, they made some great movies, and I'm glad you mentioned those. Travis Smith writes, choose one. Daniel Day-Lewis as a villain in a one-off comic book movie like Logan was, or Daniel Day-Lewis, a lead in a comedy role. Oh, I'll take him as a villain. Yep, I'll take him. Now look, I'm really curious to see Daniel Day-Lewis as a villain. I am. In a comedy. I'm very curious to see him in a comedy and try to play a straight up like rom-com role. Like play a traditionally Matthew McConaughey kind of role. That would be hilarious to see. But if I had to just pick one, it's him playing a villain in a comic book movie. I have no doubt it would become the greatest comic book villain in a movie of all time if Daniel Day-Lewis did. So that's the one I would pick. All right. Walden writes, hey, John, if the Kenobi film happens, could Vader / Obi-Wan have a Force connection, i.e. Kylo and Rey, instead of Vader being the villain? So what Vader said in A New Hope could still be true? Nah, I don't see that happening. Look, because what they said, what is clearly implied, and this is what I've been going over all the time. Everybody wants to argue for having Vader in an Obi-Wan movie. Says, well, if you take what they said in Star Wars and you just look at it differently and twist it. No. The meaning of what they were saying in Star Wars is clear and simple. Vader and Obi-Wan hadn't seen each other since their duel. That is what is implied in the movies. And that's one. Now, if you want to play fast and loose with canon and twist the meanings, well, I guess you can do that. But for me personally, I don't think you do. So I don't think that's the direction they'll go personally. Some people would love to see that, and that's cool. I just personally wouldn't, and I don't think that's the way they're going to go with it. All right, let's get on now to the questions you guys have been asking live right now. We'll get into it with Sam Fisher writes, Infinity War moved up to and will release globally April 27th. Yeah, this news just dropped like an hour and a half, 2 hours ago. Marvel has decided to move Star Wars Infinity War. They've decided to move Avengers Infinity War ahead. It's now opening on April 27th, and it's opening globally. Now, why did they do this? There could be a couple of reasons, and I'm just speculating here. One, it could be exactly why they said. They wanted to open everywhere worldwide on the same day. Okay, that's not what they normally do, but cool, they could be doing that. And that's certainly great if that's what they're doing it for. Another reason is they might want to be giving Star Wars, the Han Solo movie, a little bit more breadth, a little bit more space. That would be understandable too. If you wanted to be a pessimist, you could say they want it to come out on the same day because they don't believe in the film and they think that the global audience is going to not like it so much, and that will affect the North American box office if it doesn't open till May. I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm just saying if you wanted to be a pessimist, you could look at it that way. That hey, because that has traditionally been their strategy, right? Release it overseas first, let the word get out that the audiences are loving it overseas, and then that helps the box office in North America. Well, what if we're in a situation where, we're not completely sure the audience is going to love this one? Let's release it all on the same day then. Just release it all on the same day so there can't be any negative word out. I'm not saying that's what's happening. I highly doubt that's what's happening. I'm just exploring the possibility, so nobody jump off roof. Right now, The Wrap is writing a story saying, this just in, Marvel moves Infinity War to avoid bad word of mouth internationally. That's what The Wrap is doing right now. Anyway. So there could be a lot of different reasons. But I'm just excited that it's opening earlier. The sooner that it gets here, the better, because now it's just under 2 months away. Now it's just under 2 months away. Before it was just over 2 months away. Now it's just under 2 months away. And the closer it can get, the better. Sam also writes, are you still doing The Weekly Hero? I like that show. No, I'm not doing The Weekly Hero anymore. I have announced that here, that show has come to an end. I've talked about it on here before. Now, here's the thing, though. It's because we talk a lot about everything that people were asking on The Weekly Hero can be asked anytime. And so I decided, you know what? Just to stay more consistent, we're going to make open mic from Monday to Friday. And now Star Wars Talk Tuesday is also no more, but it's still Star Wars Talk, and I'm just moving that to Sunday. So Star Wars Talk is still around, but we no longer have The Weekly Hero, just because it was getting a little bit repetitive to everything else we've been getting. So I made that decision. It might not be a popular decision, but I think it's the best one. But thank you for asking about it. I appreciate that. Sam also writes, sorry I don't always send super chats. You don't need to send super chats all the time. You send what you want to send, Sam. Don't apologize for that. College student, no, I'm always watching and will send super chat when I can afford it or feel like blowing money. Well, appreciate that, Sam. And look, honestly, there are some people in this chat board right now. I can tell you 100% the truth, and I'll let them decide if they want to come forward and let you know who they are. There are a couple of people in my chat who I noticed were sending in tons of super chats. And I actually reached out to them privately and just email them and say, hey, first of all, thank you so much for supporting the channel. But I've got to ask, are you good financially? Because you're sending in an awful lot of super chats, and it's only meant to be, a once in a while thing, and you can send in as many as you want, but I just want to make sure that you're not, blowing your rent or something like that on sending in super chats. And they responded, no, trust us. We're adult men. We're good. So it's like, oh, okay. But don't you ever apologize, Sam, for not sending in more super chats. I appreciate you being here, being an honest member and supporting the channel any way you can. Don't worry about it at all. Let's see. This next one comes to us from Luke1234, who writes, would you consider putting clips together or a list with timestamps of the movies you were an extra in? Nah, probably not, because that would require me to go back, watch all those movies, and find out where I am in them exactly. But I'll tell you some of the ones. I'm in The Rocker. I'm in the one with Hayden Christensen, not Looper, Jumper. I'm in Jumper. I'm in the Edward Norton, The Hulk. I'm in... what other ones am I in? This is just me doing extra work. This wasn't me this is like anybody could have done what I did. You just go down, register with an extra agency, and when they need extras, they call you, you go for a day and you're an extra in the movie. It's not hard. It's super, super easy. So you can find it yourself there. Mason Barr writes, Infinity War changes release date to April 27th, my birthday. OMFG, according to Roth Cornet. Well, it's true. They moved. Marvel themselves put out the tweet. They put out the social media post, and maybe they did it because it's your birthday. We can't say that that's not why they did it. Maybe they did it specifically for Mason Barr's birthday. Wouldn't that be a kick? Chris Parker writes, what's the rules when you sit down at poker table? Play for X amount of hours, cut out if you hit a certain amount of loss. Do you think you have any tells? I don't have any tells. Simply because I'm not that, I don't play consistently. Like what I do is, I'll play loose for 30 minutes, and I'll play really conservative for the next 2 hours. Then I'll play aggressive for the next hour. Then I'll play a tight again for the next 20 minutes after that. And so I don't even think I have any tells, just because I'm constantly playing differently, just because I'm not that consistent of a player. So no, I just sit down and play. Thankfully, I don't really lose money playing poker. Now that's because I play at very easy tables. Like I don't play at the Bellagio Pro tables or anything like that. I get my ass handed to me there. I go to just where mostly the tourists go and play. So I'll play at Caesar's Palace, and I'll play at Planet Hollywood, and it's a lot easier to play there. And it's a great time. Because what I find when you're playing with like semi-pros, everybody's dead serious and it's not that much fun. I would rather play at a table with a bunch of tourists for 8 hours that are all just there to have a good time, and maybe I'll win $100 or I'll lose $100, but I'd rather that and just have a good time because it's really a hoot, because you're sitting there with all these different people from all over the country, sometimes all over the world. It's just a lot of fun. And one of the reasons I really like playing poker a lot. Let's see. Han Solo writes, is there a movie that is considered classic that you haven't seen? I don't think so. Like, I think most people over 21 who are film fans have probably seen most of the quote unquote classics. I can't think of any off the top of my head that I haven't seen yet, but who knows? Maybe I'll come across and go, oh yeah, I haven't seen that one yet. I'll have to keep my eyes open for that. Dakota Barber writes, loved Bone Tomahawk. I knew you would. The scene was brutal. Have you seen Brawl in Cell Block 99? Thought that was great as well. Zoller has made 2 really good films. No, I haven't seen Cell Block 99 yet. I thought I had, but I was thinking of a completely different movie once. So I haven't seen that yet, but I've heard nothing but good things about it. So yeah, I'm going to add that to my list. I got to watch that one soon. Let's see. Chris Martin writes, love Tom Hanks in Saving Mr. Banks. Very interested to see him as Mr. Rogers. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, it was recently announced that Tom Hanks is going to play Mr. Rogers in an upcoming biopic called, I think the name of the film is called You Are My Friend. I think that's the name of it. And it's a story about Mr. Rogers and this skeptical reporter who went to do a story on him. And I guess the two of them became friends, and the reporter became just like fascinated with Mr. Rogers as a personality. Anyway, Tom Cruise, that's a very different movie. Tom Cruise plays Mr. Rogers. Tom Hanks playing Mr. Rogers in that is great. And he is wonderful in Mr. Banks, Saving Mr. Banks. But here's the thing. I don't even think Tom Hanks was the best part of Saving Mr. Banks. I thought Colin Farrell stole that movie. I was actually kind of upset that Colin Farrell didn't get an Academy Award nomination for that movie. I thought Farrell was frickin' brilliant in Saving Mr. Banks. I thought he was great. Now, don't get me wrong. Hanks was great playing Walt Disney. He was wonderful, but that was Colin Farrell's movie. And it's really weird because they didn't even really market him in it at all when the marketing for that came out. But anyway, yeah, I love Hanks in that. Rob McDonald writes, do you have any news on when the Avengers tickets go on sale? Nope. I'm sure, like, I'm a member of AMC Stubs, and I'm a member of a couple of loyalty programs. I'm sure and I'm a member of the Fandango Premier Club or whatever. As soon as those tickets go on sale, I'm sure I will know, but I'm sure a lot of you will know as well. So as soon as I hear anything, I will let you guys know for sure. But as of right now, I don't really know. Or Ukusaki writes, why, John Campea, show is getting shorter than before? Oh, why is the John Campea show getting shorter than before? Yes. Because here's the thing. The John Campea show, which is the show we do, that's really more the news show where I want to get you guys caught up to date on everything. It's at 8 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 11 a.m. East Coast time, every morning, Monday through Friday. And I even do it on weekends too, but it's a little bit different on weekends. Anyway, I have always wanted that show to be about 45 minutes long or shorter, but it's always been an hour or longer. Sometimes going as long as like an hour and 15 minutes long. And it's like, it's too long. That's too long. I've always wanted it to be shorter. So I have shortened it up. I've tightened up. I've been adding new things. I'm adding like special guests coming in, appearing. I had, Jason Inman on the other day, which was a lot of fun having him there. I've added the new movie news feed segment, which apparently a lot of you guys have been liking, and I love doing it. I just really feel like I just want to make it so when you watch the John Campea show, you know more about what's going on in the world of movies than any of your friends. That's my goal. Now, I'll succeed sometimes, I'll fail sometimes. Sure, that's life. But my goal is that if you watch my show, you are going to feel informed and have some fun, and hopefully you'll have some interaction, get a point of view, get some opinions as well, all that kind of stuff. And I believe that the best format to doing that was by tightening it up and shortening it up. Plus, there are some people who like see a show and it's like an hour and 10 minutes long, and they just get too intimidated to even click on it. They see 38 minutes long. It's like, yeah, I can do that. And they'll click and watch it, right? So I've been wanting to shorten it up. Plus, I want to do most of the open mic chat on open mic. So instead of having like a half hour of viewer questions on the John Campea show, I now have about 10 or 15 minutes of viewer questions. And then on open mic in the afternoon, we do a whole hour of nothing but viewer questions. So that's kind of like the way I like to do it. And that is going to be the continuing thing. The John Campea show is going to constantly be in that 35 to 40 minute range. It might, peak over once in a while at 41, 42 minutes, but I think 35 minutes is what I'm aiming for, which means it'll probably be 35 to 40 minutes every day. Anyway, thanks a lot for asking. Let's see. Next one comes to us from Daryl Best Wadley, who writes, have you ever seen Friday with Ice Cube? Yes, I have. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I think everybody at some point has watched Friday with Ice Cube. It's funny. I got a chance to interview Ice Cube. I got a chance to go and meet with him one-on-one at a little shoot he was doing in Hollywood. And it was me and Dennis Zen. Dennis was my cameraman at the time. And we got to go and actually hang out a bit with Ice Cube. And I got a chance to chat with him a little bit. I even got a chance to chat with him a little bit about Friday. So that was, really, give me 1 second here. Let me see if I can find, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to find it, but if I can, oops. It was a really interesting, I believe what were they promoting at the time? They were promoting 22 Jump Street at the time is what was going on for Ice Cube. And anyway, he was shooting like a ESPN special promotion for 22 Jump Street. And I was working with AMC at the time, and they invited us to go down and meet with him at the shoot. And because he would have like a half hour of time, but it would have to be there where they were doing the shoot in Hollywood here. And this is him, and he was absolutely hilarious. He was absolutely hilarious to deal with. Like, I swear to God, for like 10 minutes straight, he just ad-libbed and went totally off the cuff, and he had me in absolute stitches. Like, absolute stitches he had me in. He was so funny. And I was already an Ice Cube fan at that point, but I became like a serious Ice Cube fan at that point when you just see how real he is. And like, he's just, I'm sure he's got some darker stories, yes, but when I met with him, he couldn't have been nicer. He was fun. He was like really going for it, just saying the most ridiculous stuff to be funny. And it was a really good time. I had a good time with him. Let's see. HV39000 writes, over under, the winner is La La Land or other La La Land jokes at the Oscars. Oh, well, you didn't set a number. If you're going to do an over-under question, you got to set a number. If you're going to, so I'll just say 50%. I'll take the over on 50%. There will definitely be some kind of joke about the gaffe at the Oscars last year. I feel very secure that there's going to be some kind of making fun of the gaffe. They have to. Yeah, it's the elephant in the room. You absolutely have to. You can't ignore that. The number was supposed to be 5. Well, yeah, definitely over 5. Alan writes, hey, John, how often do you rewatch movies? And is there a specific type you usually like to rewatch? No, it all depends on the movie. It all depends on the movie. Like, I saw the original Thor movie in theaters like 9 times. I saw Justice League. I think the final number was 7. I think I went to go see Justice League 7 times in theaters. I've seen Black Panther 3 times already. And I'm going to go back to watch more. But it really all depends. If it's a movie I really like, I will go back repeatedly, and I'll take a different friend with me each time, because I love watching a movie that I like with friends who haven't seen it yet, because I like sharing that experience with them. But no, there's no one particular type of movie unless you want to call a good movie a particular type of movie. Then yes, good movies are the particular type of movie I like to do that for. Or at least movies that I enjoy. Daryl Best Wadley writes, over under 35%, Avengers 4 makes more money at the box office than Episode 9. If Infinity War is great, I think it has a chance. Well, the 35% number is a good number. I'll take the over on 35. If you set the number at 50, I would take under. So I still think Episode 9, especially being the final film of the new trilogy and all that kind of stuff. But if you're going to set the number at 35%, I'll take the over on that. I'll take the over. Let's see. Ben Rayner writes, do you think Obi-Wan movie is off the table? Well, remember, it's important to keep in mind that the Obi-Wan movie has never officially been on the table. I mean, they're seriously, that's the thing. It has never been official that the Obi-Wan movie is even on the table in the first place. Nobody has officially said that the Obi-Wan movie's happening. So let's keep that in mind. Do I think an Obi-Wan movie is happening, and do I still think it's happening? I believe it's happening. I believe it's still happening. We'll have to wait to find out for sure, but as of right now, that's what I believe. Kellex writes, Will you do a video of your Oscar predictions? Yeah, I'm probably going to do a video of Oscar predictions. Probably Saturday is when I'll drop that video. I'll give all my predictions so you know what to, you'll know what not to guess in your Oscar pool, because I don't do great in Oscar pools. I'll be totally honest. I don't do wonderful in Oscar pools. But yes, I will be making my prediction video, and that video will probably go up Saturday. Or maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow sometime. Han Solo writes, John, can you at least say if the DC secret has anything to do with a director/acting choice? I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying anything. Look, all I did was I said I knew there was something significant that is another example of the dysfunctionality of what's going on at the DCEU. And I said I wasn't going to say what it was, except to say that be prepared, because it's not something that's going to stay secret. It's going to come out. It is, I guarantee it's going to come out. Either they're going to announce it themselves or they're going to put a spin on it or somebody's going to break the story. It's going to come out. But I said, I'm not going to be the one to do it. But I want you guys to know about it and keep your eyes open for it so you can, when it's coming, you can be prepared and you know that it's coming. But no, I'm not even going to suggest, I'm not even going to give the remotest hint as to what it is. Not in the least. No, not even a little bit. Cameron Belgrade writes, hey John, which James Cameron directed sequel do you want to see more? Aliens or Terminator 2? I would go with Aliens. Yeah, I'll go with Aliens as well. I mean, Terminator 2 is, oh gosh, what can you say about Terminator 2? It's the best Terminator movie. But Aliens is, oh god, it's a tough one, but I'll go Aliens. So I'm with you on that. I'll go Aliens as well. Mr. Hank Dunn writes, moving to Burbank soon. What are some good restaurants? Also, Parks and Rec is greater than The Office. Yeah, I don't know about that. Who's your favorite character from both shows? Keep it filthy. Parks and Rec, my favorite character is Ron Swanson. For sure. I mean, I like them all, but Ron Swanson is definitely my favorite. I would watch a Ron Swanson spinoff show. I would totally watch a Ron Swanson spinoff show. As far as The Office goes, favorite is probably Jim. Jim's probably my favorite character. I identify him with. But Mindy Kaling's character, and I can't remember what the character's name was, but Mindy Kaling's character was also really, really, really funny. Okay, next one. Curtis Lopez writes, favorite film from the silent era? Favorite film from the silent era? Probably Charlie Chaplin's The Kid. I'm going to say Charlie Chaplin's The Kid is probably my favorite one. He's done, a lot of people think Charlie Chaplin only did silent films. He did some films in sound too, but The Kid, 1920, 1921, 1922 is when it came out, something like that. I think that's my favorite silent era film. Let's see. Next up, Dark Sith writes, hey John, love the show as always. Thank you so much, Dark Sith. What makes more money opening weekend, Han Solo or Ant-Man and the Wasp? Oh, ooh, that's a good question. Here's the funny thing. I know two guys deeply rooted in the industry. One of them is 100% convinced that Solo is going to make 50 million opening weekend. I know this other guy deeply rooted in the industry who is 100% convinced Solo is going to make 150 million opening weekend. That's a huge difference. Obviously, if it makes 50, I think Ant-Man will make more. If it makes 150, Ant-Man will make less. Okay, I'll say Solo. I think Solo makes more opening weekend than Ant-Man and the Wasp. There, I've made my guess, but, let me get closer to Ant-Man and the Wasp. Let me see how really the marketing unfolds and see what kind of buzz there is for it after Avengers Infinity War, because that my mind could change. But as of right now, I'll very begrudgingly take Solo will make more money opening weekend than Ant-Man and the Wasp will. Brendan Mills writes, John, I will pay your ass $5 to PM me the DC news. No, just kidding. But seriously, can you at least hint at what property it affects? Nope, I'm giving no such hints. Not a single solitary hint. Because you know what's going to happen? I didn't even say anything about it was. And some stupid ass trade ran a story about it. Even though I didn't even hint or, intonate at all what it was about. And yet they still ran a story about it. If I gave the slightest hint, some jackrabbit is going to take that little hint and start running it as a story somewhere. It's just the nature of the business today, I guess. So no, I'm not even going to give the slightest hint about it. Adamus95 writes, where'd Adamus go? Oh, I lost Adamus. Where'd Adamus go? Wow, a whole bunch more super chats came in. Wow, a whole hell of a lot more came in. Okay. Adamus writes, hey, John, I asked about Pacific Rim 2's box office, and I remember you saying you heard bad things about it. It's one of my most anticipated movies. I'm a huge fan of the first movie. Should I be worried? Look, it's not that I heard bad things about it per se. I'm not hearing great things about it. Now, granted, these are just whispers I'm hearing. Look, I'm not saying I know the head of the studio and he screened it and he came to me and said, John, this movie isn't any good. I don't want to give that impression. No, that's not the case at all. I have heard some whispers that it's not so great, but I mean, we've heard whispers about a movie being awesome and then it comes out and it's bad. We've heard whispers about a movie being in trouble and then it comes out and it's great. So don't put too much stock in the fact that I've heard some whispers that it isn't so good. I haven't seen the movie yet myself. Maybe I'll love it. So I don't know. But here's the thing I will also say. I have not been happy with the trailers have done nothing to turn my crank. You know what I mean? That if a trailer's job is to get you more psyched for a movie, maybe it's worked for you and that's awesome, but it hasn't, if I'm going to be honest, it hasn't worked for me. So it hasn't done anything to get me excited at this point. So, we'll just have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. But you know what? Stay enthusiastic until it comes out, or at least until you see the reviews. Stay enthusiastic at least until you see the reviews. Joshua Toussaint writes, thoughts on Cronenberg's Eastern Promises? Oh, I like Eastern Promises very much. I had a couple of problems with it that I remember when the film came out, I would discuss with my friends and they just got mad at me for having any issues with it. But it's like, but these things I'm mentioning don't actually make sense. But it's a very good movie. The fights in it are so visceral. Like that bathroom, sauna room, whatever fight that was. I mean, so visceral, great characters, great dialogue. I liked Eastern Promises very, very much. And didn't William Hurt, I think, or is it John Hurt? William Hurt. I believe William Hurt got nominated for a Best Supporting Actor for that, even though he's only in like 5 minutes of the movie. But I think that's how that turned out. Let's see. Jessica Tennis writes, if I was Marvel, move Captain Marvel to present day week. Do you mean present day week or President's Day week? I'm not sure. And I'm Canadian, so I don't know when President's Day is. So I can't. So clearly you're thinking they need to move Captain Marvel to President's Day? But I don't know when President's Day is. I'm Canadian. If you said Prime Minister's Day, there is no Canadian holiday called Prime Minister's Day, by the way. But if you said Prime Minister's Day, it might make more sense to me. Ben Heyusa writes, John, so glad to know Avengers Infinity War is now releasing on April 27th. Now move Venom up as well. Yeah, why not? Move Venom. Move it up. Look, I know a lot of people didn't like the Venom trailer, which I am just dumbfounded by. I thought the Venom trailer as a first tease, if it was the final trailer before the movie, I would have issues with it. But I thought the Venom trailer as a first tease, I thought it was pretty sharp. I did. I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. It made me excited to see Venom, but it didn't work for everybody. Some people didn't like it. But yes, I am also excited that they moved the Avengers up. I'm very excited about that. James V15 writes, hey, John, best NBA team ever. Mine's the Detroit Pistons, Boston Celtics. Boston Celtics. I grew up as a kid watching basketball as a young kid, watching Larry Bird, Robert Parrish, Kevin McHale, Danny Ainge, Dennis Johnson, Bill Walton, who won like Sixth Man of the Year. That was the team that made me love basketball. And as a kid, and that's what got me into playing basketball. I actually played Provincial All-Star in basketball. A lot of people don't know that about me. I played basketball. But I remember one of the greatest rivalries in sports history. Of course, at the time, the Celtics and the Lakers. It was Bird and it was Magic. And there will never be a rivalry like that. And you know what? That's the one thing that Michael Jordan always missed in his career. Now, Michael Jordan, I think a lot of people will say Jordan is the greatest NBA player of all time. I would say that. I would say Jordan is. But there was something about Bird and Johnson because Bird had Johnson and Johnson had Bird. And it was that rivalry that elevated them, that total, equal, and opposite reflection in the mirror of each other. And their style and their play, one was black, and they did some documentaries on the two of them, and it's fascinating, just so good. The one thing that Michael Jordan missed was a true rival. There was never anybody that played that was really his one-on-one rival. You could say the same thing really about Kobe Bryant in his era, and I'm not a big Kobe fan, but Kobe didn't have that one true rival player. And you can say the same thing about LeBron James right now. LeBron James is just in a different league. He's just in a different league as a player. And he doesn't have that one true rival. It looked like a couple of years ago, like it could be Derrick Rose, when Derrick Rose had his MVP seasons for Chicago, but then that fell off. And then it looked like maybe it could be Durant, but now Durant plays with the ultimate super team, so that's not really considered a rivalry. Some people thought it might be Seth Curry, but we're getting to the end. We're in the last half now of probably the last quarter of LeBron James's career, and he's missing that too. But no superstar since Bird and Magic had that thing that just elevated the whole league together, and that's something that the NBA has missed, I think. Anyway, that's a whole lot more sports talk than I'm sure a lot of you guys wanted to hear. Sorry about that. Phil Lee writes, the rap refutes Campea's claims of Star Wars Infinity War. That's a perfect title, Phil. So the rap refutes Camera's claims of Star Wars Infinity War. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Matthew Ware writes, it's a good year to try the HeroClix tabletop miniature game. Infinity Watch and Batman, the animated series sets, are due to come out this summer and fall respectively. I am always looking for good new tabletop games. But you know what I've decided I'm going to get back into a little more heavily is Dungeons and Dragons. I used to play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. I used to play a lot of D&D. But now Anne's in a new gaming group over at Hasbro. And I need to pick up the newest rule sets. I know guys like Kyle Newman and Sam Witwer. A while ago, they were tweeting me about, we got to get a game of Dungeons and Dragons together. I'm like, yeah, I'm in, but never actually did anything about it. I'm going to get more into D&D. So maybe after that, I'll check out this tabletop game you're mentioning. But thanks for putting that on everybody's radar, Matthew. Next, Jesse Savage writes, you said Star Wars Infinity War. What's the movie about? Maybe it's the 9th film. Yeah, I was getting Star Wars and Infinity War. My bad. Forgive me. Sorry. I do this show live, when I'm trying to, I got 4 different monitors with information about the stream, upcoming questions. I've got an IMDb thing open here because I need to access information. I still got the last question on my mind. Sometimes I cross things over. I apologize. Let's see. John Salvi writes, love History 2, would love a George Washington bio. Yeah, I'm trying to think if we ever really had a George Washington bio. I can't, now that you mention it, I can't think of one. Unless there was a really, really old one, I can't think of one. Yeah, damn, you just call it Washington with Daniel Day-Lewis or something like that. That would be, you're right. That would be a really good one for them to do. Totally. Gio writes, Office top 10 shows of all time. Well, I'm not going to take a top 10 question. I'm not going to sit here and try to take 15 minutes to come up with a list. But I mean, the one about Waking Up to Bacon was a great one. The Pam and Jim wedding episode, one of the greatest episodes of television ever, I think. So there's certainly a lot of really good ones. Chris Martin writes, when the rumor went around that Hugh Jackman may voice Scar in the live-action Lion King, I know he's not, but his version of Be Prepared would have been amazing. Unfortunately, neither is happening. Yeah, neither is happening, which is too bad. There was never any truth to that Hugh Jackman thing, by the way. There was never any truth to it. Unfortunately, some little site that literally has about 8 readers read something about Hugh Jackman being at Disneyland the day before the announcements about Lion King. And they put out thing, hey, I'm here. Literally, it's like a little personal blog that has 8 readers. And they were, oh, guys, I'm hearing that Hugh Jackman is going to be Scar. And then what happened is Screen Rant, a website that used to be great under its former owner and editor-in-chief, Vic Holterman. And he had a terrific team with him, including Kofi over there. And they had a terrific team. Never would have happened then. But now, Screen Rant's become one of the worst sites for that kind of stuff. That they use that as an excuse. Oh, some little Bumble like personal blog thing wrote this. We're going to take it and run it as a headline. And then everybody ran with it. Once Screen Rant put it up, then it got out. Everybody was tweeting everywhere. Hugh Jackman's going to be Scar. And it was never true. It was never even close to true. But it would have been great. Hugh Jackman, look, I'm super stoked that Chiwetel Ejiofor is doing it too, but I know that Hugh Jackman can sing, and hearing Hugh Jackman sing Be Prepared, you're right, Chris, it would have been really special. Aaron Bailey writes, thoughts on an Office show reunion. It's hard because for those of you who don't know, NBC has been talking about doing a reunion show, like reviving The Office. But it's difficult to know how excited to get about it because we already know that Steve Carell will not be returning for it. Jenna Fisher said no one's talked to her about it. John Krasinski has said, hey, yeah, I'd be for it, but no one's talked to me about it. Not to mention John Krasinski's got that new show, I think it's on Amazon, that new Jack Ryan show coming on Amazon. So I'm curious about it, but if you're not going to have Michael Scott, and you're not going to have Jim, and you're not going to have Pam, I mean, Rainn Wilson's dance card is kind of open these days, but do you really want to do the whole show without those three? And so it's hard to know how excited or enthusiastic to be about the concept of a reunion show for The Office when I don't even know which players would be returning. And until I know which players would be returning, like I'm sure Creed will be there, but if I don't know which players are going to be returning, I don't know how excited to get because which players return will directly affect how excited or not excited I get about it. So we're just going to have to wait till we hear more information on that. W.S. Fletcher writes, just for support, keep up the excellent work, John. Oh, thank you so much, W.S. That's really kind of you to do. Thank you so much, man. Ben Hayusa writes, by the way, I was watching the classic Mortal Kombat movie, which is both of our guilty pleasures. That movie can't ever get old. Still waiting on a reboot. Yeah, I think that every year that passes that we don't get a Mortal Kombat reboot or a new chapter of Mortal Kombat lessens and lessens the chances that it'll ever happen. There are a couple of years ago, more than a couple of years ago now, they were really trying to revive the brand. Remember, they were doing like some straight to internet video things about it. And they did their own little series online to try to stoke interest. I think Michael Jai White was attached to it as well. And they had a couple of named people in it, but it didn't work. Like it didn't catch on. It didn't become this firestorm across the internet like I think they were hoping it would. And then all the talks about another movie kind of fell off. And I honestly don't know that it's ever going to happen. I hope it does. I mean, I would support it, but I mean, I don't know if a lot of people would, so we'll just have to wait and see. Jesse the Savage writes, for the Oscars, there should be a superhero category. Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Now, you're 2 steps away from giving away participation awards at that point. You start giving out special categories for superheroes, well, then you got to have a category for cop movies, and then a category for romantic comedies, and then a category for period dramas, and then a category for legal dramas, and then a category for this, and then a category for this, and everybody gets an award. Yay! No, there should not. There absolutely should not be a special category. You're either good enough to win or you're not. No special categories just so we can have an excuse to hand out more awards. Because the more awards you give out, the cheaper they get. The more you hand it out, the cheaper they become. And one of the reasons I like the Oscars is because they are so hard to get. I don't even think they should have a best animated category. I really don't. I don't think they should have that category. You're either one of the best films of the year or you're not. None of this participation award for, well, you're one of the best in the category of romantic comedy with a lead actor under 25. You get an award. Like, I'm not into that at all. In the least. I do not want that. Do not want that at all. Chris Warden writes, just to follow up from Wednesday, I agree, John. Hamilton should have had an NHL team 25 years ago. Damn right it should have. If New York and LA can support 2 teams, then so can the Toronto area. Absolutely. And those damn Ottawa Senators got Hamilton's team. So, but thank you for your vote of support, Chris. You're absolutely right. Ethan Hunt, who's got a movie coming out here soon, writes, I don't like the new Star Wars canon, but a lot of the same people saying Rey is too strong are the fans of Darth Bane trilogy where 10-year-old Xana unconsciously murders 2 trained Jedi Knights. Just saying, it's funny because I had this same kind of conversation, or at least I was reading a same kind of conversation the other day. Like somebody was complaining, Rey's too strong. And then the other person pointed out, aren't you the same person who was like demanding a Star Killer story from the video games, the character that Sam Witwer played? It's like, they were saying, you don't get to complain and say Rey's too strong. And then on the other hand, talk about, they got to do Star Killer. They got to do Star Killer. It's like, no, you don't get to say this character's too strong, but then say you want this character to have a movie. You don't get to say that. So I wasn't involved in the conversation. I was just sitting back watching, going, eating my popcorn, watching this argument go back and forth. But it's the same kind of point that you raise, Ethan, and you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Let's see. Adam K writes, should Deadpool 2 now move up as well, a week as well? Nah, they're right where they should be. I think they're happy where they're. I don't think we're going to see them move. Kellex writes, just saw The Shape of Water last night and absolutely loved it. Great movie. Great movie. Very cinematic and felt very classic filmmaking. Everything I love in film. It's my favorite Del Toro film and my favorite to win Best Picture. I think it's not my pick to win Best Picture, but it's up there. It's definitely up there. I still think, it's not my favorite Del Toro film. It's not my favorite Del Toro film, but I mean, you're talking about a guy who's put out some films that, look, I'll say this because I know I'm going to get crap saying that it shouldn't win Best Picture. I still think 3 Billboards will win. And actually, it's probably got my vote. Now, I think Logan should have been in there. I think Molly's Game should have been in there. I think whatever. But I think 3 Billboards, it's a remarkable movie. And so I mean no disrespect to Shape of Water, because I love Shape of Water. But when I say it's not my pick to win, it's because I really think out of the ones that are there, I think it will be and probably should be 3 Billboards. Dunkirk has got a shot too. Dunkirk has a legitimate shot too. Anti-Chatter Anime writes, Princess Mononoke live action. What do you think? Very difficult. Very difficult. It's kind of like, I had this conversation once a few years ago on a show of mine where we discussed, it was kind of the same topic. It's like, can you do Howl's Moving Castle in a live action? And I just don't know that you can. It's just funny because on this morning show, somebody asked about unfilmable movies. It just seems to me like, and some of these movies, including this one, it just feels like a film that is just like unshootable in live action. Like you can do it in animation, but it feels like it wouldn't quite work in a live action environment. And I kind of agree with that. So I don't know. Look, if they did it, I would be lining up with everybody else. Sure, same as Howl's Moving Castle, same as Grave of the Fireflies, same as a lot of those classic films. But if I was studio executive, I'd be, let's not roll the dice on that. I probably wouldn't do it. Let's see. Kendall Barker writes, what would be your ideal / fantasy Star Wars show to replace Rebels as the next Disney XD animated Star Wars show? Or should they do 2? I don't know. I mean, whatever they want to do is great with me. That's why they're the ones coming up with the show. So I'm not going to make up something off the spur of the moment. I'm just very excited to see what it is they're going to do. And if they wanted to do 2, I'm all for it. I don't think they'll do 2. I think they're just going to do 1. But if they wanted to stretch out and do 2, I'd be totally good with that as well. But no, I'm not going to list a fantasy one. I think they should do a show about this. No, I'm just willing to sit back and say, okay, Lucasfilm, okay, Dave Filoni, show me what you're imagining, and then just watch it and enjoy it. I think that's what I'm kind of looking forward to doing. Evan Osborne writes, John, pick one assassin to protect you and your wife, and the rest are coming after you. Alejandro from Sicario, John Wick, Anton Chigurh, Vincent from Collateral, Leon the Professional. I'm going with Alejandro. To protect me? No way. The best one-on-one dude in there is John Wick. The best one-on-one dude is John Wick. Anton wouldn't stand a chance in a one-on-one fight with John Wick. I mean, he's cold and he's brutal and all that kind of stuff, but John Wick would kick his ass. I think John Wick would actually kick all their asses. So the one I'll take to protect me is John Wick. That's the one I'm going with. Put some really good names in there, by the way. Let's see. Where did Han Solo go? Oh, by the way, guys, if you have not sent in a question yet, do not send in any more questions. So we're going to take the cuff. I've only got 15 minutes left. Do not send in any more questions. And if I don't get around to your question, don't worry. It will be picked up on tomorrow's open mic. I promise you that. But I might be able to get through the rest of them here in the next 15 minutes. Han Solo writes, I can't believe the rap. They are idiots. Yeah, they're idiots. Tin Trong writes, looking forward to True Detective Season 3. Any pause considering Season 2 wasn't well received? Thoughts on Stephen Dorff as a lead since Blade? Well, I like Stephen Dorff. I've actually had a chance to sit down with him a couple of times. He's a good guy to interview. He's very engaging to interview. I thought Season 2... Let's put it this way. I thought the performances in Season 2 were great. I really do. It's just that the story wasn't all that great. But the performances, and you know what? It's too bad. I feel really bad for Vince Vaughn and for Taylor Kitsch and for Colin Farrell and for Rachel McAdams because I thought they acted every bit as good. And I know this will be unpopular to say, I thought they acted every bit as good as Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey did in Season 1. I really do. But the story wasn't nearly as good. That's the problem. The story was not nearly as good. I thought the performances they brought were incredible. Because the story was weak, I'm not looking forward to Season 3. I'm absolutely going to check it out, but just right now, I don't feel any kind of excitement for it. Let's see. Athena writes, do you bet on the Oscars? I always bet on the big six. Nah, don't bet. I mean, unless you consider at an Oscar party, we all put in $20 and do an Oscar pool and whoever wins gets the pot. I mean, sure, that, but like in Vegas, you can go to Vegas and bet on the Oscars, but no, I do not bet. I'm not actually a gambling person, so I don't bet on the Oscars. Not to mention, I often get the Oscar predictions wrong, so there's that as well. Let's see. Yang Kinnear, I can't pronounce your last name, Yang. Sorry about that. I'm terrible with names. Hey, John, finally joined your Patreon. You're the first YouTuber I've ever joined. Totally worth it considering your content got me hooked. Keep bringing on the filthy. Thank you so much, Yang. I really appreciate that. And welcome to the Patreon community. Join the Facebook group. There's some really great people in there just carrying on all sorts of great conversations. Watch for the little behind the scenes videos that I put up for the Patreon supporters as well. Enjoy the audio podcast and thank you for coming on board, man. Really appreciate that. Chris Martin writes, have you seen the Peter Pan starring Mary Martin, then later Kathy Rigby? No, haven't seen those actually. Aaron Jarvis Hold'em writes, thoughts on Kevin Smith's recent heart attack? Well, I've talked about that. I mean, it's horrible. I suffered a similar heart attack a number of years ago. It wasn't quite as bad as his, but I mean, I was in hospital for 2 weeks after it happened, but just really glad they got to him. And look, he hasn't always been the healthiest living guy. It's not a total surprise. Let's be honest. None of us were totally surprised when we heard about it, but so thankful that it turned out all right. He is one of the most inspiring guys in Hollywood to me. I'm not saying he's my favorite filmmaker per se, but he's one of my favorite personalities in Hollywood. That dude, I could just sit and listen to him standing on a stage with a microphone telling stories. He is so good at that. And he's so inspiring with how he got into the film business. And I'm a fan of Kevin Smith, and I'm really glad that he's okay. Eli, the creative, writes, I think part of your reason why you want to reboot the DCU because you think any one actor can play the superhero, and the superheroes are bigger than any actor. And on top of that, you're not a fan of Gal as Wonder Woman. Well, I'm not a fan of Gal as Wonder Woman, but I am a huge fan. But you can't use that as an excuse. I am a huge fan of Ben Affleck as Batman, and I'm a massive fan of Henry Cavill as Superman. I love those guys in those roles. But look, it's just clear as day. They need to reboot. The audience has lost faith in it. You need to restart this thing with a fresh start and a blank page. And if you reboot, you have to start with different actors. Yes, I love Henry Cavill as Superman, but you can find another great actor. Yes, I love Ben Affleck as Batman. Well, he was going to be going anyway, but you can find another great actor. I'm not a fan of Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, but you can find a real actress to actually play the role and play it better. But that's what you need to do when you reboot. And I think, no, the real reason I want them to reboot is because it's clear to see. They've done this. Justice League came out which should have been a contender for a $2 billion film. And the audience said, we don't believe in you anymore. And the audience didn't come out to watch it. A movie with Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman and The Flash and Aquaman and Cyborg, and you had them all in there, and the audience voted by saying, we're not coming out to watch it. That's unbelievable to me. When the state of the audience, when that's the audience's predisposition towards your property, it's time to restart it. The audience has told you, we're not supporting your cinematic universe anymore. They voted by not coming. For goodness sakes, Black Panther made more money in 4 days. 4 days than Justice League did in its entire 13-week run domestically. 4 days. It made more money in the U.S. than Justice League did in the U.S. in 13 weeks. That's why. That's why. And I don't know how more people don't just recognize the plain message in front of our faces. The audience said, we're not interested. And we can't live in a world where people aren't interested in seeing a Justice League movie, for heaven's sakes. It's the Justice League. It should have made $1 billion in its sleep. It should have made $1 billion. It should have contended, however unlikely, but it should have been a possibility to consider that maybe it could have gone to $2 billion. It's Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman and Cyborg and Aquaman and Flash, and you made $600 million? And this little B-level character, not anymore, but what was a B-level character, has come out and crushed you in 4 days. That's why they need to reboot. And the fact that so many people stick their heads in the sand over the massive message that is, it's astounding to me. And the fact that DC and Warner Brothers seems to be belligerently being stubborn about this. And not just going, you know what? Our fans deserve better. Our fans deserve a thriving, successful cinematic universe that's every bit as successful as the MCU. It didn't happen. They've abandoned us on this incarnation. Okay, then fine. Let's give our fans what they deserve. Let's start from page one. Let's start with a clean slate and build a DC cinematic universe that the audience and the fans and the box office and the critics and that everybody can love and get on board with. Let's do that. Instead, they're just going to keep going ahead stubbornly. Anyway, so that's the thing that just drives me crazy. Let's see. Daryl writes, are you a fan of Saved by the Bell? It's all right because I'm saved by the bell. Yes, I was a fan of Saved by the Bell. Jake the Hummin writes, my baby girl now being born same week as Avengers Infinity War. That's rad. Just don't name her Thanos. Just do everybody a favor. Don't name her Thanos. But congratulations, Jake. That's awesome. Super happy for you, man. Adamus writes, thoughts on Darkman reboot? So underrated. It's interesting. I hadn't really considered it. Unless there's actually some piece of news out there saying that they're doing a Darkman reboot. I haven't heard of one, but it's definitely an interesting idea. If they said they were doing it, I'd be down. I'd be down to check it out, see what they did. I love the villain. Remember Mr. Pick? Remember Pick, the villain in, I believe it was Darkman 2? He was one of my favorite film villains for a long time. A lot of you going, what the hell are you talking about? There was a Darkman 2? Yeah, Darkman 2. Lance Hendrickson was like the big bad guy, but his main henchman was this guy named Pick, and I'm forgetting the name of the actor. But he was, wait a minute, no, I'm getting that wrong. I think Pick was the villain in a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, and the actor who played Pick then became the new Darkman. I think I'm getting that confused in my head. I think that's the way it worked out. Straighten me out, guys. Jump down to the comment section and straighten me out. Chris Martin writes, can you go into detail a little about the Star Wars role-playing game? I'm very interested in playing. Well, I can't go into detail because, I can't spend 15 minutes on one question. But the Star Wars role-playing game, there are several different versions. My favorite version is an old version known as the D6 version by West End Games. And it's called the D6 version because it's entirely played with six-sided dice, which is why I have an entire canister of nothing but six-sided dice here. And, it's a brilliantly simple but wonderfully immersive game because the rules are so simple. It really allows you just to get immersed in playing the game. So it's real simple. If you have a blaster skill of 3D, that means you get 3 6-sided dice. And somebody has a dodge of 2D, that means they get to roll 2 dice. It's simple. You're shooting at them, you get to roll 3d6, they get to roll 2. Whoever has the higher number wins. So if you roll 7 with your 3 dice and they roll 8 with their 2 dice, then they dodged your shot. It's really simple. It's all based on 6-sided dice, and it's a brilliant system, and I love it. Look into it. West End Games, Star Wars D6 system game. It's one of my favorite RPGs of all time. Let's see. Samantha Elliott says, another vote for Herculix. I'm sure I'm not even saying it right. Herculix, try playing it. All right. There's 2 of you are saying it. I will give it a shot. I will go to the Emerald Knight, which is a big gaming store here in Burbank. I'll go over to the Emerald Knight and I'll check it out and I'll see what it's all about. Benny95 writes, hey, John, I know you don't have much time for TV shows, but drop what you're watching right now and watch Suits. All the best. Keep up the great work. I've had a few people mention Suits to me. Not a lot, though. You're the first person I've heard really, really enthusiastic about it, but I'll put it on my radar. Thanks for bringing it up, Benny. Eli the Creative writes, over under 3%, Angelina Jolie will play Catwoman in The Batman starring Ben Affleck, directed by Scorsese. Plus, I want you to say over. No, it's under 3%. That's definitely under 3% on that, unfortunately. Luis Francisco writes, thoughts on Sage Northcutt. He's not bad in 22. Oh, and he's only getting better. He's only getting better. He's so young. And he's just getting better. He just recently joined Team Alpha Male. And they are really starting to shore up his wrestling and his grappling. Give him a few years. He's still so freaking young. He has got ridiculous sets of base skills. Now you build on those skills with a good team and good coaches. He's going to be, at 25, 26, 27, he's going to be scary. I really think Sage Northcutt is going to be scary. Let's see. Daniel, where'd it go? Daniel Rund writes, cast MCU actors as DC characters and other way around. No, that's far too much to go into for one question. I can't do that. Esther Kuneka writes, your favorite food and or meal? Well, generally it's Italian food is my favorite. Veal Parmesan is my favorite single dish in the world. Veal Parmesan, absolutely. Especially the way my nonna made it. Nasser Al Dubai Baij writes, any news about Infinity War test screenings and reactions? By the way, you have lots of fans in the Middle East. Well, thank you so much, Nasir. Nope, I haven't heard a single thing about any test screenings. Isn't that funny? We always hear these things get out about Warner Brothers had a test screening of this DC film and that DC film, and it's always standing ovations for all the DC test screenings that happened. But we never hear about test screenings on the Marvel films. I'm not saying that means anything. I'm just saying, like every single DC film that's coming out, whispers get out, like rumors get out about it, secret test screenings where standing ovations happened. And Marvel, nope, zip, just we're going to let our movie come out and it's going to speak for itself. Don't you worry. So yeah, there's that. So no, I've not heard of any test screenings for Avengers at this point. Let's see. N8V Pride 616 writes, a Hellboy movie with the look of Sin City. Interesting. I'm very excited about this new Hellboy movie, though, because you got the director of The Descent doing it. I like the cast they've put together. I'm very curious to see what they do with it. So before I go saying, oh, you should do a Hellboy movie this way or that way or whatever, I'm just going to wait and see what they're doing, because I do like the team they have. They seem to put together a really good team. Let's see what they do with it. I'm actually kind of excited about it. I am. I'm getting more. I admit, I didn't think it was a good idea to reboot Hellboy, but I've warmed up to it. And I'm actually now to the point that I'm actually kind of excited about it. Okay, last couple of questions here, then we're going to call it a day. X-Wing and TIE Fighter are great games, my brother. Damn right, John. Damn right. These are old school games. They're very difficult to find to play on a PC system anymore. But X-Wing and TIE Fighter, just their campaigns were great. The dynamics were great. It was such a great game. It was the first game that really made me feel like I was in Star Wars, you know? And they're old, but if you get a chance to find the classic X-Wing or TIE Fighter games, by all means, guys, give them a shot. Derek Large writes, what is a movie premise you want to see? I want to see zombies in the Wild West, Red Dead Undead Nightmare style. Movie premise I want to see? I don't know, man. I haven't even thought about that. But I mean, if you want a Red Dead style, just go on YouTube and watch the Red Dead Undead cutscene movie. It's on there. You can find it. It's there. That would be interesting. I'm a little over the zombie thing. They already did Aliens in the Old West, and that didn't work out so well. I'd have to think about it. I can't think of that off the top of my head, to be honest with you. Ever Noel Asco writes, "What's your favorite color?" Blue. I'm gonna go blue. It's the color of my eyes and the color of my shirt. I'm gonna go blue. Although I use in a lot of my design work, I use a lot of red. But I'm pretty sure blue is my favorite color. And the final question today comes to us from Lincoln Johnson, who writes, "Hey John, what will it take for a video game movie to be successful? What can potential video game property hoping for a franchise learn from the MCU?" Well, look, there's no secret. It's just make a good movie. There's not a secret formula. There's not a secret ingredient they're forgetting to put in. It's just make a good movie. That's it. Once you make a good movie, everything else will take care of itself. That's all you got to do. Just forget making a good video game movie. Just forget that. Put that out of your mind if you're making these films. Just put that out of your mind. Just focus on making a good movie. And if you make a good movie, everybody will be okay with it. Because if you look at like some things like some of the X-Men movies, right? Like for instance, Civil War. The movie Civil War by the MCU was nothing like the Civil War comics. It had some similarities, but they just made a good movie and called it Civil War. It had some similarities. X-Men Days of Future Past is completely different from the graphic novel X-Men Days of Future Past, with some similarities, sure, but they just focused on making a great movie. You got to do that for these video game things. Just focus on a great movie. Don't become over-reliant on the IP. Don't worry about making it too much like the game. Make sure it's similar to the game. Make sure it feels like the game, but don't worry about sticking to the game. Just make a good movie. I think once they learn that lesson, they'll be well on their way, I should say. All right, guys, that will do it for today's installment of Open Mic. As always, that was a lot of fun. Thank you guys for being here and joining me today in the discussion. Listen, don't forget, guys, if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel already, make sure you click on that subscribe button. Click the thumbs up button in this video as well. And listen, guys, if you want to write in an email topic to get on the John Campea Show in the mornings, just email me anytime at john@thejohncampeashow.com. Ignore where it says Open Mic there. Sorry, I've got the wrong graphic here. Put the word topic in the subject line, not Open Mic. Put the word topic in the subject line and keep your emails to 90 words or less. And guys, don't forget, you can follow me on social media. Just jump on Twitter and follow me on Twitter, simply at John Campea. And listen, guys, if you enjoy watching my shows, do me a favor, head on over to patreon.com/John Campea. Get all the information about what it means to be a Patreon supporter of mine, how being a Patreon supporter keeps the lights on around here and keeps guys like Jonathan and Ray and myself having a job, and also what benefits there are to being a Patreon supporter as well. I believe it was Yang earlier who said he just joined up. Thank you so much for that, by the way. And if you become a Patreon supporter, awesome. If not, no problem. I'm just glad you're here being a film fan right along with us. All right, guys, that'll do it for me for today's installment of the show. Thanks a lot for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until the next video, bye-bye.